start with Gustave. I've only done Gustave, Maelle and Sophie because I feel like they're the only ones we've really seen much of. Everybody else, it's been too brief and I can't really get a good read on them. I will also caveat this whole thing with, I'm not a professional psychiatrist or therapist or anything. This is purely me, just as a normal human being. My impression of them. Don't read too much into this. I could be wrong about everything. So, Gustave. I like him. I think he's such an interesting main character. He's so different to other main characters I'm used to seeing. I'm very used to seeing like antisocial main characters who maybe can be quite standoffish or maybe don't play well with others and stuff like that, but he's socially awkward. He mumbles. With Sophie, when he was getting nervous, he was like struggling to finish his sentences. Quite frankly, he's very relatable. So I don't know if that's why I like him, but I think it's so interesting that they've made a main character who, from what I've seen, does not do well under pressure. Struggles a bit with social interactions where he's nervous or he's not in the mood. He seems very introverted. He's quite sort of sarcastic and pessimistic and a bit dry. Like, he mumbles a lot. He's clearly very capable though. He's clearly very smart. I don't know what the Lumina converter is, but it sounds like this whole expedition, that's like their key. That's like why we think and hope that this expedition will be the one that succeeds, is because Gustave alone has built the Lumina converter, which is hopefully going to be the game changer for us. So he's clearly very capable, very smart, but I get the impression that where he thrives, where he's strongest, is probably in quiet, steady, predictable, familiar environments, like his workshop or with people he knows well, where he kind of feels like it's his forte. When it's in a high energy, high pressure, unpredictable environment where it feels like there's a lot at stake. We saw with Sophie, even though it was a calm environment, it'd been a while since he'd seen Sophie. He was nervous, and I think anybody would be in that situation, the same in that situation, but he was kind of like flustered and a bit awkward and didn't know what to say. On the beach, again, very understandable, but where you saw some people, they have been training for this, nobody expected that, but lots of people did jump into action, try and fight, try and protect each other, try and find cover. He had almost a constant freeze response to everything. He was just like, it was almost like he was just a bystander. He was just watching it happen.
Gustave, come on, we need to go! Snap out!
Lucian had to keep jumping in the way of danger and keep protecting him to try and get him to snap out a bit and find cover. And even at the end with the creepy hand monster thing, Gustave just stared at it. He didn't try and run or try and fight back or dodge. He just stared at what he assumed was his impending doom. And like I said, totally understandable. He probably thought everyone was going to die. I would in that situation. I don't blame him. But I think when he gets overwhelmed, I think he shuts down. He freezes. He doesn't know what to do. He just overloads and essentially becomes a bit of a liability, a bit useless. But I imagine, because he did build the Lumina converter, I imagine in a kind of more quiet, calm, steady, predictable environment, he can do so much, and he is very capable. So I don't think it's that he's weak or cowardly or anything. I think it's just that his strength was probably back in Lumiere, where he could prepare for all of this, and I think maybe it's playing to his weaknesses actually being here in a very unpredictable environment where he does have to think on the spot and react really quickly, while there's a whole lot of unpredictable, very stressful stuff going on, and I think that's when he just freezes up. He is very humble about himself, and he seems quite doubtful about things in general. Again, that plays into sort of the pessimism, I guess, and like a bit nihilistic at times. But the one exception that I've seen so far is whenever it comes to the expedition. And despite his more like closed off, unsure, sort of awkward, quiet personality, that's when he steps forward and is like, oh hell no, like I won't have anyone talk bad about the expedition, or just accept that this is how we have to live. It really fires him up, and so that makes me think that he has a very strong sense of duty and justice and injustice. He is like adamant that the expedition is the right thing to do and we should fight back. Yes, I don't think he's the kind of person who thrives in high stressful, unpredictable environments, but I do think that he is somebody who feels that if you're unhappy with your fate, do something about it, take action. A couple of the people we talked to in the town in Lumiere, who were kind of saying, like, maybe we just have to learn to be happy while we can and just accept that this is how things are. That was when he really stepped forward and was like, oh, absolutely not. No way am I sitting here listening to this. So I think, yes, he's a very calm and steady, probably quite a reliable person. I think he does really struggle in the high pressure, highly stressful, unpredictable situations. But I think he is still somebody of like action, somebody who feels like if he's unhappy about something, he should change it. Like, he takes on that accountability and responsibility, and also thinks that everybody else has a duty to do that as well, rather than just being unhappy and not trying to change it. I think seeing how different people were kind of coping with the situation, and I saw quite a few different like ways that people were doing it. His seems to be like he needs that hope. He needs to know that there is a chance that they can restore justice and that they can restore fairness to Lumiere. I don't know what he would look like without the hope that they could do it. If this wasn't an option, if the expedition wasn't an option, I don't know what it would look like for Gustave, because it seems to be the thread he clings on to. The thing he's so passionate about is the fact that they have a chance. Not a guarantee, but it's just that hope that they could change it. And he wants to throw everything he is at that chance. So I think a strong sense of justice and injustice, a strong sense of duty and accountability for taking action to change their situation. And I also think he needs that hope that they can do it. I think those are like three really strong pillars for him as a person. His passion for the expedition doesn't seem to be based on his, he built the Luminar converter. There are a lot of people who'd be bragging about that, who would be like, I'm going to be the hero of the town, I'm going to be the one who makes this expedition successful. He's very humble about his accomplishments, but he is hopeful about it. He's not focusing on, this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to save the day and it's because of me that we're going to win. All he cares about is nothing to do with him and his reputation personally. He's like tunnel visioned on like taking down the paintress and changing this for everyone. I know there was that talk earlier of like legacy and stuff, but he just doesn't strike me as somebody who like wants everybody cheering his name, doesn't want a statue put up in his honor or anything. He just strikes me as he's doing this for the cause, not for the fame at all. Despite him being a little bit awkward and quite quiet, he does seem to have quite strong, like, protective behavior over the people he kind of feels that guardianship towards. Like when he was sad about Sophie's gamage, like, imminently happening, he was still putting on a smile for the apprentices and scruffing their hair.
Thanks, guys. This is great. Thank you.
I'm sure his heart was already breaking at that point. You saw when she put on the uniform, like his eyes closed, like when she couldn't see him, like he was already kind of struggling, I think. But he still put on a big smile and was like pretending to be okay for them. You saw when they landed on the shore, he kind of put his hand out to like tell Maelle to stay back. She is a trained fighter as well. She can handle herself. I mean, she beat me in a fight. But you could tell he wanted to almost put himself between her and the threat and for her to stay safer behind him. So I think he is quite protective over, you know, his loved ones or people he feels that guardianship over. One interesting thing, and I wonder if this is more of like the age difference and the type of relationship. With the apprentices, he kind of hid how he was feeling to seem okay for them. It was almost like protecting them emotionally from worrying about him or, you know, feeling uncomfortable because he was sad. But he's a lot more honest with Maelle. He still seems to kind of downplay his feelings. Like he was making sort of that like dark joke and stuff when he was nervous about seeing Sophie.
You should probably do it before they wither and die.
What, the flower? Or Sophie?
Ooh, dark. Sophie would approve.
But he also doesn't put on a big smile and pretend like everything's okay. He is a little more honest with Maelle. And I assume that's just because of their closeness, because they do seem to look out for each other. So maybe there's just that level of trust there where he knows he can sort of show some vulnerability or be a bit more honest about how he feels around her. But it does sound like he is a bit more honest and on slightly more equal footing with her, at least emotionally, and then physically is a bit more protective of her around sort of unknown threats. But what an interesting character. So he kind of seems one way most of the time, but he has his exceptions. I don't know if this game has character progression at all or character development. I'm really interested to see how he'll end up, because right now this whole place is probably quite new to him. This is unfortunately, in his worst case scenario, very high stress, very unpredictable, but this is also kind of his life's purpose. Like he's finally getting that chance to take down the paintress, and this environment and whatever is here will become more familiar as time goes on and he adapts and gets used to it. So, but then I don't know, maybe this will also change him along the way. I'm curious to see what happens. He's a very interesting, very nuanced, very relatable character for a lot of people, I imagine. So it's just interesting seeing somebody so real and so relatable go through such a crazy, crazy thing. I mean, I don't even know what's going to happen, but if that's how it started, I can only imagine what's going to end up happening. Okay, the next one. So you can probably hear my voice is going. Partly, yes, I'm talking a lot, but also I've been talking a lot earlier today, so I started without much voice power. So Maelle, she is the person I think we've seen the least of, because we were obviously playing a lot as Gustave and of Sophie, but we had a lot less interactions with Maelle. But we did learn a bit about her, either from what we saw of her or from what other people were saying about her. We had, I think his name was Victor, just a bit above the harbour, and he said, oh, hesitation's not her style, it's like never been her style. We know that she had never met Sophie before. That was the first time she met her, which surprised me given how close that Maelle is with Gustave, and the fact that Gustave is her guardian.
Take care during the expedition. Gustave told me a lot of wonderful things about you.
About you two. I always told him you two should never have broken up.
So either he became her guardian quite late, or otherwise I'm not quite sure how she hasn't met Sophie yet. Or how long has Gustave and Sophie been apart? But then if they're already talking about having children together, surely they were adults, I assume. Maelle, we know she was an orphan. I assume her parents died from the gamage. I know people can just die from natural or accidents or other natural causes, but I assume most people in this world die from the gamage. She comes across externally as quite thick-skinned, quite confident, very sure of herself and her choices. Like Victor said, no hesitation. She was saying to Gustave, like, just be direct with Sophie and stuff. Like, she seems quite assertive. I get the impression from I think it was Catherine and Lucien were saying about her when they said, oh, she normally hates these things like the social gatherings, and when she said to Gustave, like, you've got people here who will miss you, I don't, like, this isn't my home like it is for you. So I get the impression that she is lacking a sense of belonging and community within Lumiere itself. I have to be careful how I word that, because I think she has a sense of belonging and community and family with Gustave. And given how she talks about Emma, you know, she was never saying like, oh, Ems will be here soon, or anything very familiar. It's always, oh, your sister, or something. I don't know, she just seems a bit more formal and a bit more distant in how she talks about Emma. Whereas with Gustave, she seems very much like family to him. So again, I'm just speculating once more, but I get the impression she lost her parents. I don't know when or how it happened or what her early life looked like. Maybe she had to develop, you know, a thick skin, a lot of independence. Maybe she had to act tough to get by. You know, it's a lot for a kid to go through, losing both parents. And I'm sure it's very situational, but I imagine maybe she had to learn to look out for herself. She's not the only orphan in the town. You know, the orphan's already overrun by the sounds of it. I don't know how easy it is to get food if the older generations are dying out, and you know, there's a lot of young kids and stuff who need food and clothes and whatnot. So she ended up with Gustave and Emma as her guardians. It doesn't sound like she is terribly close to Emma. I think she probably does see Emma as just a guardian figure, whereas Gustave I think she sees as like family and a friend. So I think her one single point of community and belonging is with Gustave. It didn't sound like there was anything else in Lumiere that she wanted to stay for or felt she would lose if she went on the expedition. With Gustave, he is so confident in the cause, in the expedition, and taking down the paintress. I've not really seen that in Maelle. She wants to be on this expedition, but I've not really seen her be like, yeah, let's take down the paintress, and like, this is so unjust and unfair and we should fix this for everybody. Not that I can remember. So I think that her reason for being here, although I'm sure she hopes we will succeed as like a byproduct of being here, but I think her one purpose of being here is to be with Gustave. I think he is her home and he is her family and her community. And if your one everything is getting on that boat and going across on this expedition, and you've got nothing else for you in Lumiere, wouldn't you go? So that's why I think she's come. I think Gustave is here because he feels duty bound and committed to fixing this horrible wrong that they're all subjected to, and that's his focus. And I think Maelle is here because Gustave is here, because she feels she belongs with Gustave wherever in the world he goes. I think he is like her North Star, so she is just going wherever he goes. Even if that's to her early death, even if that's to this dangerous expedition, I think that's unconsequential to her as long as she's there with Gustave. Right at the start, in that sort of flower garden where the game first starts off, she was talking to Gustave and he mentioned about how they'll be throwing more than rocks soon. And she had it's the only time I've seen her doubtful. She said that all the other expeditioners said the same thing and it didn't work out for them.
And soon, we'll get to do a lot more than throw rocks.
That's what all the other expeditions said.
Hey, you know they gave their lives to lay the trail for us, right?
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Yeah.
So Gustave shut her down pretty quick and was like, absolutely not, we're going to do this. Like, they gave us a better chance and one day enough of those chances will make it succeed. But it was interesting that in the town around everybody else at the party, I don't know, I just never really saw her show any kind of vulnerability or hesitation. It's not really vulnerability, but just that doubt. But she did show it with Gustave, and it doesn't match up with what other people have said about her. So I'm wondering if maybe she has this thick skin and this toughness and this feistiness and lack of hesitation and confidence to everybody else, but maybe because Gustave is like her person, and they obviously have this very close bond and a lot of trust, I'm wondering if he's the one person she allows to see sort of beyond that layer, to where she has doubts or where she's maybe not so sure. Maybe in the same way that she looks out for him, maybe she also feels safe enough to be sort of a bit more open with him so he can do the same for her. So really interesting. Another very nuanced character who's not just 2D, not just this way, but feels very real and has sort of another side of them or more going on inside. It's not all just black and white. There's sort of a bit more nuance to them. And that brings me to Sophie, who's my last one. Now, obviously Sophie is now dead, so what I saw of her, however little, is, I assume, all I'll see of her. So Sophie, I think to most people comes across as very caring and compassionate and gentle and peaceful, and I do think she is all of those things, but I think that she is a lot more complicated, and probably there's a lot more depth and emotion and conflict going on inside than she sort of allows to show outwardly. There was a few things that she said and did that kind of made me think that. She clearly wasn't happy with the way things were and with her fate. So I think that she is sad that this has to happen to her and to the others in Lumia, or maybe the world. But she was trying to put on kind of a bit of a brave front about it. Like she was saying, oh, I've lived 33 good years and, you know, I'm fine mostly and stuff.
I can't imagine what you're going through.
I'm fine. I'm fine. I've lived 33 good years. Look around. We've had our whole lives to prepare. We're all fine. Mostly.
I get the impression that she doesn't want to add to the sadness by bringing other people down, and she kind of puts on a bit of a brave face and wants other people to think she's okay and she's not sad and she's not afraid, even when she clearly is. So I think that was a front. I don't think that's how she truly felt. She might even be trying to convince herself that it's okay, maybe a bit protective of her own emotions to kind of try and compromise and make peace with it and sort of bargain with herself that, you know, yes, it's sad she has to die now, but she did manage to live to 33 and other generations will get much less time than she did and stuff. And I was thinking about her and sort of how I think she feels and what she expresses. It reminded me a lot, I can't remember what it's called, but there's something called, like, it's like the circle of control or influence, or the sphere of control or influence, and there's 3 circles, and the inner one is what you can control, like what you can directly affect and change. So for example, she is unhappy with this situation and she could control whether or not she has children, and brings more people into this world to suffer this fate or not. So that was her, within her circle of control, that was something that she could choose to do. The next circle is a circle of influence, which are things that you can influence, but you can't directly change yourself. So I suppose that's kind of supporting the expedition. You know, she knew that she wouldn't be on this boat taking on the painteress, but she could prepare the uniform for Gustave. You know, she could try and convince people that the expedition is worthwhile, and sort of have like an indirect effect from that. And then there's the outer circle, which are things you can't control or influence, and essentially you should not waste your energy on them. And I think that's kind of how she views this fate in general. You know, she's controlled what she can control, she's influenced what she can influence, and then I think she was trying to make peace with the things that she feels like she cannot change herself, that's beyond her. I can't remember what comment she said, but she did mention something like, I know what I can and cannot change.
Madame, why didn't you join?
Me? I'm content with my life. I know what I can and cannot change.
So it made me think a lot of that. I don't know if I've applied that right to the right thing, but that's kind of what it made me think of. And then speaking of having children, that I think is so telling about her inner world. I didn't see any reason why she didn't want children that was shown to us, other than the fact that she disagrees with subjecting more people to this fate. You know, maybe she just doesn't want kids and we just didn't see it. But I didn't see, you know, she clearly loves Gustave. Gustave clearly loves her. She actually seemed quite good with the kids and seemed to be very engaging and affectionate towards the kids, like the apprentices and stuff that we saw. And I just didn't see any other reason that she gave, like, oh, I just never wanted kids or anything. So I'm under the impression that if it wasn't for this fate, she would want kids with Gustave, or would have wanted kids with Gustave, probably. I can't know for certain. So inside, I think there was the balance of, I want to have kids with Gustave, but I don't want to continue this fate for people. So I think that she's very driven by her values, and she puts what she feels is right above personal cost. So even if it comes at a personal cost to her, and that she doesn't get to do the things that she wants to do, or that would bring contentment and fulfillment to her life, she will still always do the right thing over that. And then the comment she made about the paintress, while everyone else, you know, it's very easy when you're in a fate like this, you want, you know, you're angry about it and you want somewhere to direct that anger. And clearly, apart from the people who are saying, oh, we've upset the paintress and this is what we deserve and stuff, like, a lot of people were, yes, angry at the situation, but angry at the paintress. And they saw her as the enemy across the waters, the one changing the number, and then everyone dies. Sophie is the only person I heard who showed empathy towards the paintress and tried to understand things from like a bigger perspective of maybe she's also a victim in this before.
Sometimes I feel sorry for her.
Who? The paintress?
Look at her. She looks sad. Maybe she's a prisoner too, stuck in the same cycle with us. Silly her.
Only you could choose empathy at a moment like this.
It's one of the few choices I can make.
I couldn't do it.
It's okay. You don't have to.
So I think she's very introspective. I think she's very insightful and has great perspective, or at least a great ability at kind of taking the perspective away from her as an individual and looking at things in a bigger picture, neutral light, and trying to gauge the situation as a whole rather than just from her own personal emotions and wants and desires and perspective. And I think she's very driven by values and always tries to do the right thing above what she wants to do for herself, which, you know, there's so much depth there. A lot more than just the outward peaceful, kind, soft personality that she kind of expresses outwardly. And I think that kind of makes it sadder perhaps with what happened between her and Gustave, because it's almost like they're both trying to show some resistance to this fate, and they're both in their own way trying to stop the suffering. Gustave is saying we can have kids because we can go and kill the paintress and stop this for everybody. And I think Sophie is saying, yes, I hope you stop the paintress, but in case you don't, I don't think we should subject anyone else to this fate, so let's not have kids. So I kind of feel like they both want the same thing, but they're just doing it in different ways. I can see why they work so well together, because they're both very values driven, they're both very duty bound, but Gustave shows that strong sense of justice and anger at injustice, and Sophie, I think, shows empathy and insight. Like, they both have different directions with how they get to their choices, but I feel like there's so many parallels between them. They're both quite quiet, gentle people. I bet they were absolutely lovely together. So sad that this situation tore them apart, because I mean they clearly loved each other. I'm pretty sure they would have had kids had this fate not been the case. I feel like they would have just been happy together forever. But I can totally understand both perspectives. I can see Gustave saying, if we stop having kids, it's almost like the Paintress is taking more away from us than she already is. But then I can also see Sophie's perspective of like, if we can't stop her, or we might not be able to stop her, this is our way of rebelling, and of stopping other people from going through this. Like, let's not give her more victims, essentially. And both of those perspectives, I think, are so valid. I don't think there is a right or wrong one. But yeah, anyway, sorry, that's my thoughts on Sophie. I think that she is a much more complex character than sort of comes across on the surface, even though I only spent a short amount of time with her. But again, for all of that, I'm not a therapist, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist or an anythingist, I am just me. So I would love to know your thoughts though, because there's going to be things that I might not have picked up on, or maybe I've misread, or there could be other angles or other things to sort of consider. And I find all of this so fascinating. So please do share with me if you disagree with anything I've said, if there's any more you think you can add to it. If there's another angle that you think I might not have picked up on, or anything you think I might have missed, I want to know it all. Please let me know. And if there is character development in this game, I'm very curious to see if what obviously Sophie is dead now, but if what I've got for Gustave and for Maelle changes, because our experiences do change us. So maybe Gustave will become really good in like unpredictable high stress fight situations.
Dim dam dadilam, vacarme s'en va dans l'oubli éternam, et Gustave dom guardeam, dilim didididilam, lutes seradodilom, seram, dim dim da 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 dim dim da 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 dim.